This is the Louie T Network.
Man, I love some football. Man, I love some football. My favorite week is week 1, cause I'm watching football. First comes the preseason, and I don't take a day off. And then it gets even better when your team makes the playoffs. 32 teams go hard for one thing. They work for one thing. That Super Bowl ring. 32 teams go hard for one thing. They work for one thing. That Super Bowl ring. We in the lab room.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome. You are in the lab room. I, of course, am your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. Week number 3 in the National Football League. Indianapolis Colts traveling to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars in an AFC South divisional showdown. And I had the audacity to make this my money, yeah, money, yeah. Let's get it. Game of the week. I had the audacity to put my money on the dirty, filthy, nasty Jacksonville Jaguars. And oh boy, did they let me down so, I want to say gently, but there was nothing gentle about this ass thrashing that they got in this game. And so by virtue of them taking a beat down, I took a beat down as well. No shame in my game. I thought this was a game that I could lose. I went out on a limb. That limb and branch was very thin. And as I went out, the further I went out on that limb, the more and more I realized this branch is about to break and I'm about to go down. And so let's talk about this game quickly. There's not a lot here to really go over, folks. There's one, and again, I say this about every ass whooping that is handed out. There's a silver lining in every beatdown. And so we'll get to that in a second. Let's just talk about this game briefly. Colts jumped on this Jacksonville Jaguars team from the jump. They started with a field goal. Jacksonville still reeling from that first half in Philly. They've never recovered fully from that second half in Philadelphia, where they lose Jonathan Cyprien and they lose their identity as a football team. They still don't know who they are. They don't know what they want to do. They don't know if they want to run the football. They don't know if Toby Gerhart, and I don't know if he's healthy or not. I know he's been dealing with some injuries coming into the season, but you know, all the hoopla, all the hype over Toby Gerhart in the preseason was, oh, this guy going to be a bell cow. We're going to hand him the football. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it in any game. They have not made a concerted effort to run the football, have the Jacksonville Jaguars, in any given game. And I don't know if it's because this offensive line isn't creating any holes, or I don't know what the situation is, but they have not recovered from the second half of that Philadelphia Eagles game. They just haven't been the same team. That first half against Philadelphia was an aberration, it seems like, because they looked nothing like the team that started 17-0 against the Eagles in week 1. Since that point, they scored no points in that second half against Philadelphia. They scored a whole 10 points against Washington in 4 quarters as they were dominated 41-10. And then they go into this game thinking, okay, we're going home for the first time this year. Get a little bit of home cooking. We know the Colts. It's family business. What are they going to do? I thought that they were going to show up after all of the disappointment of those 2 games on the road out east. They were going to come home and settle in. And it's always good to see a familiar face. And the Colts are a team that, yeah, they're the best of the best in your division. However, I thought that seeing a familiar foe, a team that you know all too well, was going to be something that would help the Jaguars shake out of this this cloudy haze that they're in right now, but I was wrong. And so after the field goal by the Colts, the Jaguars had a chance to respond, and they didn't. And so the Colts said, okay, we'll just take over from here. And I think the Colts might have proceeded to score on the next 3 or 4 possessions, and they were touchdowns. They scored 2 touchdowns. They kicked another field goal. Before you blinked a couple of times, it was 20-0. And it just got worse from there. I mean, they ran up the score, and at the half, I want to say it was 30-0 at the half. And at that point, they had no choice but to bring. I mean, if I'm at the Jags game at halftime, if it's 30-0, I'm headed for the exits. I'm going to get in my car and I'm trying to beat the traffic. So if I'm the Jags, the only way to keep you at the game is to put Blake B in the game. And they put Blake Bortles in the game, gave him an opportunity to get his feet wet as a quarterback. And at this point, you're saying to yourself, the Jags are one of the worst teams in the league. We've seen that over the last 2.5 games. I don't know. And what's so disappointing about the Jags is that I thought they were getting better. I thought they were ready to turn the corner. They just needed a quarterback, and Blake B sitting right there on the bench. So I was saying, hey, why not put the young fella in, give him an opportunity to get his feet wet and see what he brings to the table. Let's just play the kid. I mean, I know you said you wanted to wait and see with him and give him an opportunity to sit and wait behind Chad Henne and learn the game. But, hey, there's nothing here to be gained by just sitting here. The best way to learn in this league is through experience. And getting your brains bashed in, 41-10 and 44-14 every week. If you're going to get beat that badly, you might as well have your rookie quarterback getting invaluable experience while you're getting your brains bashed in. No reason to get your brains bashed in vain. So I think from here on out, let's just see Blake Bortles go, and let's talk about what we saw from Blake B in this game. Things that were impressive. The mobility stuck out like a sore thumb. You saw the ability to run some read option for him to go naked boot, come out the backside, nobody's there, holding backside contain. He's able to pick up some yardage. You saw the wheels in this game, the ability to extend plays, something that you lack with Chad Henne at the quarterback position. So there are definitely some positives, but a lot of negatives. Look, he's a young guy. He's going to make mistakes, threw 2 picks in this game. But all in all, 2 touchdowns, 14 of 24, over 200 yards. Don't let the yardage and the 2 touchdowns deceive you. If you watch the game, those were a couple of cheapies. One was like a 67-yard touchdown to Allen Hurns where he broke like 2 tackles and ran to 4 touchdowns. So the numbers are quite deceptive. He had a solid showing, but it was his first time getting his feet wet. I expect him to play better as he gets more and more experience. But if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, if you're a fan of this team, these defeats the last 2 weeks have been very disheartening because you weren't even competitive in these games. And at least in the Philadelphia game, you had a taste of the lead. You felt like you had a chance, and if you would have done this better and done that better, and maybe if Cyprian doesn't go down, maybe you win the game. But all in all, after it's all said and done, now it's time for Blake Bortles to get his opportunity to start. I don't think you go back to Chad Henne now. I think you turn the page and you say, all right, Blake, what do you got? You got to find out what you have in Jacksonville now. It's time to stop babysitting Blake Bortles, and it's time to stop putting the bubble wrap on this entire team. Take the bubble wrap off of every single player and find out what you have. Because if you're Gus Bradley, you got to find out which guys are committed to winning and which guys aren't. You got to find out who wants to be on this football team and who's going to give me 110% every single week. No matter if the score is 0-0 or we're getting our ass handed to us 41-10, I need to know who's going to give me 110% on every single snap. And so at this point, all the rookies need to be in the game. All the guys that you value as Jacksonville Jaguars need to be on the field, and you need to have this be an open audition for 53 roster spots every single week from here on out, because the Jacksonville Jaguars right now are a joke. And right now, if they want to be taken seriously, they've got to start playing more competent and competitive football. They get their brains bashed in this game, 44-14. Colts take care of business. Couldn't be more impressed with the Colts in this game. They definitely came into this game with one thing in mind. Step on the throats of the Jaguars. Don't let them up. Don't give them any hope. Don't let them think that they have a chance in this game. Run away with this game, and let's rest comfortably as we take care of business on the road. And that's exactly what they did. Colts get their first win of the season. Now they're 1-2, and they needed this one desperately. They could not afford to fall to 0-3, could the Indianapolis Colts. Meanwhile, Jags are 0-3, and they look pitiful in the process. They've got some things to iron out, and I think it starts with starting Blake B moving forward for the rest of this season. So, and find an identity. Who are you? Seriously. No, seriously. Who are you? Because right now, I don't know what you're trying to accomplish on the offensive side of the football. Defensively, I don't know what you're doing there either. You're not getting pressure on the quarterback. You're not doing anything well. Nothing good. Everything looks bad right now in Jacksonville. So if I'm Gus Bradley, it's back to the drawing board and figure out what this team does well and try to highlight their strengths and minimize the weaknesses. And it starts offensively. You got to score points. You can't win in this league if you're only scoring 10 and 14 points every week. You got to find a way to score up over 20. If you can't score 20 points, don't expect to win in this league. You score 17, 10, and 14 in 3 respective weeks. You've got to find a way to put points up on the scoreboard. And so if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, it starts on the offensive side of football. The defense will wake up if you give them a reason to fight. But if you keep putting them in holes every single week, you can't expect this team to have a chance to win. So that's going to do it for the review of the Jags hosting the Colts. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the Lab Room. I thank you for joining me. Come back and join me as I've got plenty more games to break down in week number 3 in the National Football League. See you in a bit.